In this third lecture, we'll discuss about Mesolithic Age or the Middle Stone Age, where the very tools they used as microliths or the spearheads and arrowheads, and the very beginning of farming started during the Mesolithic or Middle Stone Age, like growing plants and then agriculture and shifting cultivation, and the very practices of this of man during the Mesolithic Age or Middle Stone Age. The traces were found in Thailand, the fertile Karshant, and the area Jericho in Palestine, even in Syria, Iraq, Iran, and the Nile Valley in Egypt. Then they started domestication of animals during Mesolithic Age or the Middle Stone Age. So during this age, man made significant advances in this age, which separated the Upper Paleolithic times from the Neolithic or the New Stone Age. In this age, the glaciers were shrinking and the areas formerly covered by ice were gradually becoming thickly forested. Big animals moved away, but the dog was domesticated by man and helped him in hunting game. The Mesolithic Age or the Middle Stone Age is marked by the wide use of small stones known as microliths, some of which were used as spearheads and arrowheads. The Mesolithic people also used the sledge as a means of transport over snow and ice. They harvested the food grains which grew wild in some regions. It is possible that Mesolithic people of Palestine also practiced cultivation to some extent. So the very change made from food gathering to food producing, which did not come suddenly. It grew gradually out of the practice of the Mesolithic people. As we know that plants grow from seed, but this was not so obvious to man in those days. He saw plants growing around him, fertilized naturally, year by year. Ancient men took these things for granted and harvested ripened grains, not knowing yet that grain could be planted. Perhaps in accident, man tried to grow plants from a seed may be considered. In this sense, man was the first scientist. His first successes led to bigger experiments, and thus a dependable supply of food grains was ensured through secular cultivations, and that he started in a regular manner. In the early stages of agriculture, man could sow and resow the same plot of land year after year till the soil lost its fertility. He had no idea of fertilizing the soil with manure. He simply moved to a new area, cleared that land and cultivated it in the old way till that land too was worn out. This wasteful method of shifting cultivation even is still practiced in some primitive cultures among the tribal communities. More permanent settlements developed in areas which nature fertilized year after year with the silt from plots or decayed matter. There is evidence to show that agriculture was practiced first in Thailand, in Asia, and in the well-watered valleys on the borders of the Arabian and Iranian deserts known as the Fertile Crescent. The Fertile Crescent is the original home of sheep, goats, pigs and cattle, where wheat and barley grew as wild grass. Also in West Asia, in particularly in Palestine, people had developed a high level of Mesolithic culture. So, the very reason of this is that the findings in Jericho in Palestine have revealed three levels of culture which lie above the remains of Paleolithic times. They show the remains of later developments of a settled village life. Jericho had well-constructed huts with walls of bricks and stone built all round the village for defense against enemies. It is estimated that this settlement, which had a population as large as 3,000, grew of about 7,000 before Christ. The bones of numerous animals found there show that the people kept herds of domesticated animals, especially sheep and goats. The goat appears to have been the second species of animal domesticated by man after dog. And numerous ruins of agricultural villages similar to Jericho of Palestine and more or less of the same age have been discovered in North Syria, Iraq, and Iran. These discoveries have left no doubt that the domestication of animals and cultivation spread very rapidly from Palestine to these countries, and then about 5,000 years before Christ to the Nile Valley in Egypt. The changeover from hunting and food gathering to farming and stock breeding took place even in India in the latter periods, as it was found from various evidences discovered during the Indus Valley civilization and even later on. So the very change that we found under the Mesolithic Age or the Middle Stone Age, that the change that was from food gathering to food producing, even though it did not come about suddenly, it grew gradually out of the practices of the Mesolithic people during the Middle Stone Age. So, due to that activity of man, as he tried to grow plants from seed, so man could be considered as the first scientist. So in this lecture in detail we have discussed about the Microliths tools such as the Spearheads and Arrowheads of the Mesolithic people or the Middle Stone Age people. Then how there was beginning of farming by growing plants from seeds. Then the agricultural activities, in particularly shifting cultivation, which even at present day is in practice among the primitive communities like the tribal people among certain areas, even in India also. And as we have discussed, the very act of man as a food producer, it started from Thailand in Asia, then it found also among the fertile continent, and that is the Arabian and the Iranian deserts. Then in Jericho, in Palestine, then how it spread to Syria, Iraq, Iran, and even to Nile Valley in Egypt during 5,000 years before birth of Christ. And how man learned about domestication of other different kinds of animals besides dogs, such as animals like sheep, goats, etc. So in this lecture almost we have briefly completed about the Mesolithic Age or the Middle Stone Age, which ultimately led to the Neolithic Revolution or the Neolithic Age or the New Stone Age, which we would like to discuss in our upcoming lecture.